What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Buccaneers franchise. We have episode 31, and today is the start of off-season number 2, our segue into our third season with the team. We're coming off of a championship loss to the Eagles, and now we are in Pro Bowl week. So for those of you who are hoping for a live stream this weekend, I'm sorry, I cannot make it work. I'm going to get this first part recorded. Hopefully we'll see how much of it I can get done today, and then tomorrow. This will probably be up on Saturday while I'm working. So if you're watching this right now, I could be working. I don't know yet though, but hello future selves and me. Anyway, so we are here in Pro Bowl week, and here is the Pro Bowl roster. It looks like Lance is going to make the Pro Bowl. No surprise there, really. I mean, he had a good season statistically, and Madden does not care about anything else. So he makes it as the second quarterback. Rachaad White's going to make it in. That's good to see. Let's see who else. Oh, Taylor Wharton made it. Awesome. So Taylor Wharton is going to win. I believe he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he's going to make the Pro Bowl after having a tremendous rookie season. So he is a star ready to shine. I am excited to see where the future brings Taylor Wharton and this team. Nobody at tight end for us. Tristan Wirfs made the Pro Bowl as well. Ryan Jensen made it at center. And that's it for that. Anybody on the D-line? I don't think so. We didn't have that much of awesome play at the D-line position. Wow, no linebacker for us. I really thought maybe Levante David had a chance because he had a pretty good season, but Demario Davis did have a really good season. I remember seeing those stats, so that's not surprising to me. And then at corner, did we get anybody in here? And no safeties either. So that was it. So we have Ryan Jensen, Tristan Wirfs, Taylor Wharton, Rachaad White, and Trey Lance. So if you guys couldn't tell, we had a pretty good offense, right? And of course, for those of you who want to see the rest of the Pro Bowl rosters, I'm just going right back up the list here. You guys can pause as long as you want and take them down. And there we go. We are back to the top. There we go. Now we are. I timed that very bad. And that brings us to the week of the Super Bowl. And now we'll get a chance to see the yearly awards, the finalists. No speculation anymore. So Josh Allen ends up taking home the MVP trophy. He had a really good season, and the Bills themselves had a tremendous season. Coach of the Year, no surprise, Sean McDermott. AFC, Lamar Jackson, Offensive Player of the Year. Myles Garrett was Defensive Player of the Year. Joseph McCoy ends up winning Rookie of the Year for the Broncos. Jeff Scruggs. So I'm trying to see if there's any of the guys that I almost drafted in this list, and I do see a few. Dwayne Albert being one of them. That was the tight end that I was going to take over James Blake for a while there until I decided I wanted James Blake's extra speed and acceleration and stuff. So he ended up still making it pretty high on the list. He made it higher than Blake did, so that's something. Jermichael McAllister. I'm not sure why that name sounds familiar. I feel like, was that another tight end? Gosh, I can't remember. And then defensively, George Elliott wins for the Titans. Jason Saxon, that was one of the corners. Spencer Metcalf, another corner. He was actually, I think he was the number 2 corner. Jeff Campbell, I think he was a safety. Donovan Short, another safety. Howie Hawkins, middle linebacker. Edward Mills, not sure what his position was offhand. Whoops. Marcus Hood, that was a defensive end. Artie Vick, safety, and Jamar Harper, who I believe was also a safety. Maybe a linebacker. I don't know. Best QB, best running back, best wide receiver, best OL, best defensive lineman, best linebacker, best defensive back, and finally, best kicker. And now to the NFC. This is our division. Cooper Kupp ends up winning Offensive Player of the Year. He had an amazing season. If you guys remember seeing his stats, he had like 15 touchdowns and like 1,500 receiving yards. Just an absolutely amazing season. CeeDee Lamb right behind him. He also had a tremendous season. We shut him down, but he had a good season. Same with Dak Prescott. Defensive player, Michael Parsons. So the Cowboys are just littered all over this list. Demario Davis comes in right behind him. Offensive rookie, Taylor Wharton locks it up. I knew it. So happy. And Danny Mason comes in second right behind him. Oh, James Blake did finish higher than Albert. I don't know why I thought he was further down the list. So Blake finishes 4th in the voting, and then Dwayne Albert finished 6th. So there's that. Was there anybody on this list that I was going to draft? Well, Dontrell Samuel, look at that. Number 6. Hastings, Weathersby, Dunbar, Daquan Samuel. I don't know how Samuel is down here. He really didn't do a whole lot this year, but maybe that's just because of some of the touchdowns he had. Defensive rookie Chris Woodley, a linebacker with the Falcons. Quincy Sprinkle, a corner. Caleb Christie, another linebacker, outside linebacker. Kai Perryman, who's a defensive end. Jonathan Ware. I want to say he is a defensive tackle. Matthew McClellan, that is a corner. Jamie Roper, defensive end. Mike Goodwin was a safety. Earl Wilcox, defensive end. And Jordan Williams, a defensive tackle. Best quarterback, Dak Prescott. Best running back. Best wide receiver. Best OL. Best DL. Best linebacker. Best DB. And best kicker. So, as always, if you guys want to see with the full list, go back, pause it, check them out. I just don't think we need to go through every single player on the list because that would take us a very long time. And we'll start with the recap. So the Eagles end up going on to win the Super Bowl 28-24 against the Ravens. Jalen Hurts was the MVP. So I guess we could at least say we only lost to the Super Bowl champs, right? I guess. And now it is time to take a look at the retirements from this season. This one is interesting. I'm not sure if David ended up retiring, or if you guys remember at the end of the One Last Hurrah last episode, it said he's pondering retirement. So I don't know if he is going to retire or not. I thought that scenario meant they were retiring regardless, but apparently I was wrong. If he decides not to retire, I'm not sure what I want to do with that information. I mean, if he asks for a low enough contract, I would definitely consider bringing him back just for the mentor capabilities he could give Anthony Moore, who's going to be taking over for him. And I've already decided that regardless of what happens, I think Moore needs to start. We need to get him built up now, so that way when David is officially gone, if he stays or not, Moore is more than capable, and he's progressed quite well. So at this point, regardless if we keep David around, if he stays, he will not be starting with Devin White. It will be White and then Anthony Moore handling the middle linebacker duties. Okay, so here we go. So let's just take a look down. Patrick Peterson, Mario Davis. So at least he went off on a high note individually, right? The Saints themselves did not have a very good season, but he went out on a high note. He finishes before his decline really set in. He ended up being 13-year pro, and wow, he deserved it. Cameron Jordan, another one. So the Saints, their whole defense right there, honestly. I mean, yes, they have other players, I know, but that heart and soul of that defense has been Davis and Jordan, and now they are both going to be gone. That's going to be a lot of there's going to be some big shoes to fill for whoever they end up bringing in. Ryan Tannehill retires after 13 years. Blaine Gabbert. I, honest to God, did not know Blaine Gabbert still existed in football. He was still, is he honestly still playing? Let me know if you know that. I don't think he is. I thought he like, I know he never like officially retired, but I just thought he just like, yeah, we're done here and just threw in the towel. Maybe I'm wrong. Darius Slay retires after 12 years, which makes sense for a corner, but he is having a pretty good season as well. Dak Martin retiring, Stephon Gilmore, Corey Linsley, Levante David did retire. Okay, so he decided to hang it up. And you know what? That's probably for the best anyway. He wasn't going to get a chance to start here. And do you really want to have to restart somewhere else? You know, if you want to start for one more year. So he retires. It makes sense to me. Thomas Morstead also retired. Russell Wilson decided to retire. After the impressive season from Joseph McCoy and him riding the bench, he just decided it wasn't worth it anymore. He hangs it up. Let's see. Anybody else? No, nobody really that surprising or well known, I guess. Like, not, I know all these players, but like just like well known in the spotlight. Matt Ryan retiring. That's not really surprising either. Linval Joseph, Marvin Jones Jr. retiring. I had no idea he was already up to 13 years. That's crazy. Derek McKinnon hanging it up. Ndamukong Suh, I thought he was already gone too. My God. A lot of people. Kenyon Drake after 9 years. And I think that is going to be pretty much everybody that we are expecting. JD McKissick hangs it up. Jesse Davis, right tackle, after only 9 years, hangs it up. Xavier Rhodes does as well. So there is the retired list for 2024. And now it's on to the staff moves. Who was fired? So first and foremost, head coaches. Sean Payton was fired. Oh, okay. So apparently Gary Crawford was the head coach of the Browns. He was fired. Peter Gaffney was fired, the fake Patriots coach. Josh McDaniels was fired. Thank God. Sean McVay fired. D'Amico Ryans. This is the kind of stuff that Madden has to get right. Madden has to start incorporating some type of motivations and clauses with head coaches as well. Too many times this game just fires every coach, right? And while the Texans had a decent season, or maybe haven't had good seasons in this world right now, they're not firing D'Amico Ryans already. You know, the team is young. I think everybody in Houston knows that. So I really don't like how the game fires a guy like D'Amico Ryans after just, what, 2 seasons. That's crazy to me. And then they hired this guy named Jay Gordon. You know, I don't like it. I don't like it. I think D'Amico Ryans should have stayed on. Sean McVay should have stayed on. Like, these kind of decisions here are what really sort of grind my gears about Madden and the staff, the way the staff works. They need to fix that. And that officially brings us to re-sign week. The new mock draft is out. I'm really interested to see how this looks. And this could change, of course, given free agency and whatnot, but let's just check out the mock draft and see where things are falling. All right, so no surprise, Nathan Solomon, the #1 player. I've been saying it all season long. This guy is going to be a stud. I have no surprise at all that he is the top player. The Rams bringing him in, that's going to be amazing. I am, however, wondering what they're going to do at quarterback. Did they draft one? No, so they have Baker Mayfield, our old quarterback. And he looks like he's under contract. I wonder if they're going to still try to go after a quarterback. Maybe in free agency they will. But right now in the draft, they're not going to take a chance at Everett Roper, who is apparently a top 5 pick. We know he's a round 1 talent, so he's not fully prepared for top 5 pick worthiness. But the Rams might not know that. Just surprised that they wouldn't have him taking him. But looking at the receiving core, outside of Cooper Kupp, who is now 32, they really don't have anybody. Tim Cleary, a second-year guy. Tutu Atwell in his 5th year. Van Jefferson coming into his 6th season. And Puka Nacua, who unfortunately didn't get the awesome boost in this world because I started this franchise way before the NFL season actually happened and took place. So he didn't get all those boosts. He's not like an 80-something overall player right now. So really the Rams need a receiver. So I guess that makes sense. And then moving down the list with the Raiders, Mac Bradshaw, top edge rusher. Makes sense there to me. Kerry Hayes, another edge rusher for the Broncos, and that fits their system. Dom Osgood, so 2 receivers going top 5. Dom Osgood out of Oklahoma going to be going to the Commanders. I feel like that changed. Wait a minute, was Dom Osgood always a top 5 prospect? Let me check my list here. So he was always a top 5 projected player. I just checked my spreadsheet that I made available to you guys, and hopefully you guys are liking that and keeping up with what I'm doing here. Now, I know that this offseason is going to go really fast, and it's like, oh, well, it was here and gone. But I will be updating it in the preseason. As soon as I have the draft file, I'm going to update that whole list, so that way you guys can sort of watch the entire process unfold with the draft next season. And then moving on, Shaquille Johnson, another edge rusher. So right away, and then another one here. So Steve Irwin. So we have in the top 6 picks, 1, 2, 3, 4 edge rushers going in, 2 wide receivers, no quarterbacks. That is saved for the Bears at 7, who apparently are going to go Everett Roper and move on from Justin Fields. I wonder if his contract is up this year or if they are just moving on altogether. So this was Justin Fields' rating this season. While it's not a tremendously great one, he didn't have a horrible one, and he actually improved drastically from the last 3 seasons. But I guess they're just not going to. They just don't want to keep him. They want to bring in somebody different. I don't think it's going to really help him though. Justin Fields being a 79. I mean, Everett Roper's got to be like an 80 overall coming straight out of college to be able to take him over. I mean, he could be, but actually, I don't think he will be, because if he was like that high of an overall, I feel like he would have top 5 talent then when we unlocked him. You know, it would tell us that he's going to be that good. And they re-signed him already. I mean, look at that signing bonus. They've already re-signed Justin Fields, so that is not a very good decision if you are the Bears. I don't know. Hopefully that changes. Maybe it'll change yet, and they won't end up taking him. Taj Woodward, another receiver, going to go to the Lions. I like that move. Adding another playmaker with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. John Overton to the Texans. Jaleel Below to the Saints. That makes perfect sense. We just saw that Demario Davis has hung it up, so they need a middle linebacker, and he is the top guy. Makes perfect sense to me. Giants going to go Dudley Long. Nasir Wheatley, the top D tackle, going to the Cardinals. David Cruz, another wide receiver. What is that? 4 receivers in the top 15? And a lot of edge rushers. Like, there is nobody going to be left by the time we even get down to us at the back end of the draft. Reggie Wilson, there's the first offensive lineman, and then he's followed up by Farr. Jose McKinley going at 17. That's the corner that I like the most. Deacon Pemberton, top safety. Mitch Redmond, another speed rusher. Another one, Glenn McAllister. TJ Grubbs going. So it looks like a lot of people are in desperate need of some edge rushers. Carl Horn going, Oscar Poole, Troy Borden, Jaden Stanley, Vinny Mariani, and oh no, now they're having extra quarterbacks come into play. Oh snap. So now they're projecting Tyler Chambers, the quarterback that I've been having my eye on, and from what sounds like in the comment section, you guys think is the best option for us, going at 27 to my favorite team in real life, the Vikings. James Ellsworth going after him, and then they have us taking... Oh, I hate how they do this. So when I made the list, Rashad Barr, I think I did running backs last or something. So it's showing as him as my favorites. You know, he was like one of the people picked on my favorites. And for some reason, they just threw him in there. Maybe he's the worst. Like, maybe he's down at the bottom of the list. I don't know. I think I did running backs last because I just didn't really care about them. But still, I just hate how they do that. Like, just give me somebody that makes sense for the round, right? But anyway, it doesn't matter what they say. We know what we want to do. And then Neil Wolf, another receiver. Quincy McPhee at outside linebacker. And then finishing it off with George Foster to the Eagles. Before we get to the re-signs page, let's take a pit stop here at the team itself and see if anybody has gone up in development. I can see that Trey Lance has. He went up to superstar thanks to his Pro Bowl appearance. And that's just going to make him even more expensive. I feel sorry for whatever team decides to pay him that much money. I don't see that anybody else... well, now we know Taquan Samuel is a star development player, so nothing crazy there for him. Godwin had superstar. We know Wharton was X Factor. So it doesn't look like any changes up front here. Defensively, it looks like we'd had 1 or 2 of them. So Frankie Louvu ends up moving up to X Factor. And then we know Anthony Moore was X Factor as well. So big find there. Oh, Paul Bronson is also star development. So, I mean, it's better than normal, right? But so that is what our team is looking like now. And now it's time for us to go to the re-signs and see what we can work out. First and foremost, Tristan Wirfs, another Pro Bowl appearance, top left tackle. I made the decision after, consulting with you guys in the comment section quite a while ago now that, we should just tag Wirfs this season, see if he wants to, re-sign again next season. And if he doesn't, then I can look at trading him. His interest is still pretty low. It has gone up a little bit though. I'm wondering if that's because we won, we got to the championship game. So we're going to go ahead and franchise him. We have 59 million right now in cap. We don't have the most room. And that's going to take up 27.8 million in salary. Oh boy. Oh man. I don't know why I didn't think that through very well. Trey Lance only wants 166 million. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, look at that. He wants 29 million a year starting out, and it's going to go as high as 37 a year. I don't want to. So yeah, I withdrew the offer on Lance. Jermaine Johnson. I like Jermaine Johnson. I think he's got a good future here. I think he will end up being good for us, but I do not want to take his 5th-year option. I want to see what he does next season before paying him, double digits in the millions. So we're going to reject that offer, and we'll have to see where things go next season. Emmett Thomas, he's really just a role player, potential futures guy. I would like to sign him to a futures deal. I'm not sure if he's going to accept it or not, because his interest level is sort of I will just throw this out there. Okay, perfect. So he takes it. Ryan Jensen, who did not retire. I really thought he was going to retire. He doesn't. And now this is another tough choice. I don't know if I want to bring him back. He wants to come back, but if I bring him back and sign, I mean, if I bring him back, that's going to bring us on to 43 million, right? And then if I want to bring any, well, most of these guys don't really matter anyway. But that would still leave us at 43 with 28 coming off for Wirfs, which would put us down below. Wow. Yeah, that would put us at 42 of our 59. So, or 57, I should say, that's left. Dang. This is really tough. I think we have to let Jensen go, right? I think we have to. I'm sorry, Jensen. I know you wanted to come back, but we can't have it happen. Sean Tucker, I'm sorry. I went with Zonovan Knight. You wanted to mess around. All of a sudden, now you have interest. Now you have interest. Let's see what changed, huh? Oh, now because we had a decent season, now you like us. Screw you, Sean Tucker. Deion Gibson, another futures type of guy at left tackle. He wants $4.5 million? Okay, dude. Look, man. Look. Stop it. I'm gonna let him test, and then we'll see if I can find somebody different in free agency. That's crazy, man. You want 4.4 million. You're a 66 overall. You don't even have a development trait. Mike Green, same with him. I can't pay him 4 million. All right, we're gonna let him test. Chuma Adoga. So this is a little bit more understanding. 3 million, but he's a 70 overall. He's played guard for us, and he's filled in quite decently. So I'm gonna see if he will take a neutral offer. Okay, he does. Perfect. So that takes care of our backup guard position for now. And that leaves us William Golston, who definitely I'm gonna have to let him go. And then Nick Morgan. I will bring back Nick Morgan. I'm really interested in the fullback that I have on the list. The one that I have on there, Darren Andrews. Not sure if we'll end up being able to draft him. We do not have a lot of picks this year, guys. If you guys remember, I'll show you that in a second. We only have like 4 picks because of the Taylor Wharton trade. But I will bring him back in case I can't draft a fullback, because obviously it's not a very big deal to draft a fullback. So we'll just re-sign him. We have 54 million left. 27.8 of it going to be used up with Tristan Wirfs. Okay, let's do it. Okay, we're down to 26 million. Wirfs is here though for another season at least. We'll get a chance to, try to renegotiate with him once the season gets here. And that is going to be it for our re-sign stage. Not very much going on. So it looks like we don't know a lot of information outside of receiving quarterback. We have some information on, I believe, defensive ends. Yeah, some of them are really high up there. Javon Jones, Glenn McAllister. Javon Jones is one that was not talked about being drafted before us. So that's somebody that we could maybe try and fit into that next focus scouting to see if we can unlock his full potential, to see what his overall is. There's a few other guys that I might want to do that with too, now that we have a more of a clear picture, I guess, with the quarterbacks. We have some D tackles at 75. That's good. I don't know. It's gonna be tough because I want to make sure I unlock guys' full potential, so I can get a real good sense of and know what their talent is, so I know if it's worth taking them or not. We know nothing about linebackers, but I really don't think linebacker is a need of ours. Even if I decide this is something I was thinking too, guys. Now, I don't know how long this is going to go on for. I don't know how long Luvu and Johnson are going to be here, but with the questions up in the air about Johnson, at least, right? We don't know if he's going to want to re-sign with us or if we'll be able to come to an agreement. And the onset of Timmy Baker this past season, what I'm thinking of doing is moving Timmy Baker to left end here, have him take the place of Derek Green. And then I'm thinking of moving Derek Green up to behind one of these guys. Because we have Yaya Diaby, who I think is a solid role player for us, but we really don't have anybody else on this side. And if I could put Green up here, that would allow us to have a pretty strong edge rushing core, and it would allow us to utilize Timmy Baker more on more down situations, not just in certain situations where he gets subbed in. That would give us Cansey, Vea, and Baker all on the line at all times, which I really like that. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to do that now. All right, so here's what the team looks like now after those moves. So I moved Timmy Baker. Yes, he goes down a little bit in overall because he's not a defensive tackle. but we know what he can bring to the table. I'm not concerned with him being 1 overall less than that of Derek Green. And then Derek Green stays, well, he was a 76, so he's a 75 now at outside linebacker. But I think that's a better fit for the team overall. And then we'll just keep growing Green a little bit. I mean, he had a couple of plays, but he didn't really make much of a splash as Timmy Baker. And Baker was honestly not on the field as much. Green was our starter all season. And yet I remember calling Timmy Baker's name way more than I remember calling Derek Green's name. And that was in a limited role. So if I can get him on the field more, he might be able to produce that much more for us and really become a force on our defensive line. And now let's take a quick run through of what the team looks like right now before we hit free agency. So Tyler Huntley is the only quarterback we have on the roster. Quality backup, we've seen him in action, but definitely not a starter that we should be that we should have. Running back room is set. We have White, Samuel, Knight, and Tyler Batty. Is it Beatty? I'm not sure. Probably. I'm hoping it's Beatty because I don't want to keep saying Batty. I sound ridiculous saying that. So we're gonna assume it's Beatty. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Nick Morgan at fullback. Receivers, I don't see really anything changing here. We have a lot of young guys that were on the practice squad. I'm probably gonna end up cutting half of them. I'm not sure what I want to do with guys like Palmer and Watkins. I feel like there's only room for one of them to actually succeed on this team, and I'm not sure if I want to continue using Watkins or if I want to try to grow Palmer a little bit more since he's younger. So I'll think about that throughout this video. James Blake is holding down the tight end position. Cade Otton right behind him. Those guys are a good 1-2 combo. Parham and Durham are here as well. At the line, we need depth. I think we're good almost with our starters, but we need some serious depth. Left tackle especially. Cody Mauk. We do have Adoga, who we just re-signed. We also have James Macklin, who was on the practice squad. He'll probably end up making the active roster this year. We have nobody at center, so we need a center bad. And then right guard, I think we're good. If I can upgrade the position, obviously I want to upgrade the position, but it's not at my priority list right now. And then same with right tackle. I would love to upgrade, but it's not a priority to me at this moment. On defense, it's going to be Timmy Baker. I want to see what he can do there. I'm not going to try to bring in anybody different. And then Kalijah Cansey is safe here, at least for another season. And Vita Vea, obviously he's safe, but it looks like you can tell we do need some depth pieces. Timmy Baker and Logan Hall are pretty good pieces. I don't want to keep Taylor Klein at defensive end. He's not going to be somebody that we can really rely on. And then we need somebody at D tackle. So we'll need to find some depth pieces, but so far I don't see many starters outside of center that we really need to target. Linebackers, obviously we're solid there. We're very solid at linebacker. We have so many of these guys. Half of them are probably gonna be gone very soon, and we'll just keep Derek Green. Corners is another one that, do I want to continue to play Isaiah Rodgers, or do I want to maybe move on from Rodgers and take the hit on the penalty? Because I know we signed him last season, but Bronson has come on very strong, and I was not anticipating that. We built him up throughout the season in the mini games throughout weekly training. And we saw him in action in the game, and he did not play bad. If we would keep maybe Bronson and Shelley, and then we could trade Rodgers to try and get some draft capital back while he still has a trade market, that might be our best scenario, because we also know now that Tyler Chambers is being targeted by the Vikings potentially. And I don't know if that means we're gonna have to move up or we're gonna have to completely abandon the quarterback position for a draft target. I don't know yet, but Rodgers and maybe even a guy like Quez Watkins is right now at the top of my list of can we do something with these guys to bring us more draft capital, to give us more flexibility when it comes to draft day. And then safeties, we're set at safety. I would like to bring in somebody for the future for Ryan Neal. We do have Christian Izien, but again, that age situation, he's 25 now. Maybe he gets good enough to be a 78 at a max before he starts regressing. I just don't see him playing enough or getting enough snaps to be able to progress to a point where it's okay, this guy is a legitimate starting safety. He could have a future if I move him down to corner potentially. I mean, he's got decent man and zone coverage. And his strength is definitely not hard-hitting safety. So I think that might be a good play. I'm not sure if that's the route I want to take quite yet with him. Okay, so let's check out this free agent class and see who is out there for us. Quarterbacks, Tua Tagovailoa is in the free agency. Come on, Madden. Can we stop with this craziness? Can we please stop with the craziness? Miami should not be letting him go. I don't understand. He was in a warm weather state. The Dolphins have been pretty good recently. Why did they not re-sign him? I mean, we can't afford him, so I mean that's not even like something I'm trying to consider. I'm just looking at like why did they not re-sign him? Oh, so they're broke. Oof. Oh man, I just realized that they have negative cap space right now, so they couldn't re-sign him even if they wanted to. That is nuts. I feel like in this scenario too, this is another area that Madden really struggles with is team sense, right? And decision making. Like if I'm the Dolphins in this scenario, I'm not letting my quarterback go to free agency. What am I gonna do? Maybe I restructure somebody's contract like Tyreek Hill. Maybe I cut a guy like Heron Armstead, who is 34 years old and is taking up 24 million of cap space. I mean, that at least gets me to the right side and positive into like the teens. You could try to move on from some of these other guys that are super high paid right now. I mean, I just feel like there's better options on the table than cutting or not re-signing your quarterback. So Tua couldn't take a little enough money if he wanted to stay there to stay on the team because they literally cannot afford anybody. So the Dolphins might be looking at basement watch for a while if they cannot get their market, if they cannot get their financials under control. Jared Goff is in free agency. That's interesting. And then here's another one too. Jared Goff is in free agency. The Lions had plenty of money to throw at him, and he wasn't able to be re-signed because I guess he wasn't close enough to home and he wasn't in warm weather. Obviously, Detroit's not a warm weather state in historic championships, but like, why are the motivations so randomized? Where in Jared Goff's career has he ever stated any of these things to be somewhat true? Right? Where has he ever stated that? He's been playing in Detroit for years. He is beloved by Detroit fans. I would assume, right? I'm assuming just like the Vikings fans, there's the haters and there's the lovers, but Goff has done a lot of good for Detroit, even before my franchise started. Like this wasn't like it was just this season that he popped off. He's been doing this. So why would he not have a motivation to allow him to stay within his team? That's this part that just really irritates me about this. Because now the Lions are left without a quarterback. And yeah, they don't have a quarterback. And they have plenty of money. So now who's going to be the quarterback there? Okay, I've already been upset about some of the free agency things. So you know what I'm going to do? For you guys, it's going to be like 3 seconds. I'm going to go and spend a half an hour fixing a couple of these teams that are just being stupid. So I'll be right back. All right, so I wasn't able to jump on teams and like sign players because otherwise I'd have to sim pass this week and I don't want to do that. But I was able to just go to some of the teams like the Dolphins and I think the 49ers and one other team just to make sure that they weren't like negative 30 million. So hopefully now at least the Dolphins can make some type of an attempt to sign him, but it might be too little too late. But I'll just have to keep an eye on that again next year. So much for Madden saying they improved the logic of the teams, right? That was one of their selling points, guys. Remember that. They improved offseason and team building logic for the AI. Yeah, my ass. Okay, so we know now that there are some quarterbacks out here. I do not have any interest in bringing on a quarterback, any of these guys, because it just doesn't make sense. We don't have a lot of cap room to play with, so we're just going to move on from quarterbacks. Nothing for running backs, nothing for fullbacks, nothing for receivers, nothing for tight ends. And now we get to where we're going to start looking at things, the offensive line and defense. So first order of business, can we find a center? Well, yeah, Jensen's out here, but so Drew Dahlman is somebody that I could see bringing in. He's still asking for quite a bit of money. Well, no, he's not actually. He's asking for a lot less. And he could hold the position over while we find a full-time replacement for the future. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to offer him a contract here. There we go. He's got decent. He's interested, so that's good. We're the only offer. So at least then, if we can get him, that solidifies our center position. We do have other options down here if we absolutely need to, but for now, we're just going to move on to the next positions. Wyatt Teller is available. That would be interesting. Jalen Mayfield. I don't see anybody at guards that I would really want to bring in. So Jedrick Wills is a guy that I would consider, but it would severely take away our available cap in free agency, because he's a good player. He's 81 overall. He's only 26 years old, and he wants a decent contract. He also is not, for some reason, he wants a mentor at the position, which is weird considering he's already starting caliber. So he has like no interest in us. One option that I'm looking at here is Dan Moore at left tackle. The reason for that is not necessarily to be a left tackle, but if he could fit at right tackle for us. But at the same time, like, Josh Jones isn't that bad of an overall to really find a need to replace him right now. But I do want to bring in some type of depth here. We'll probably come back to this later. We don't need a top flight guy as a backup right now. There's nobody at the right tackle position that would really make sense to bring in. Not at this stage anyway. Now that our offer for Dahlman is out there, I think we can start looking at players that are not high on the list of overall, because looking through this, there isn't anybody that I would take from free agency that would be considered a starter in our books. At least not that, like, obviously somebody like Byron Murphy would be a starter, but do I want to bring them on as a starter? No, I don't, because we have Dean, we have Davis, and we're trying to build up Bronson. So why would I bring on another corner? And, you know, same for like safeties. We have starter safeties right now. The only player that I saw from the secondary that I would like to try to bring in for future is Nick Cross, but he has very, very little interest in signing with us. I could just throw him an offer and see if he would accept it, but I feel like he would be an excellent pick. He would probably be a better free safety than a strong safety. So I'm not sure if that would change his tune at all, but we're just going to do a player-friendly contract offer and see if he will consider it. And now let's go to the defensive line and try to find some depth for behind our current starters right now. We need to find somebody that fits our system. You know, it's not somebody that isn't going to be like, we can't bring in a guy like Jacob Martin. You're a stand-up, you know what I mean? He stands up in our system. So somebody like Jerron Reed could be an option. Even somebody like Morgan Fox. I'd like to find somebody that has a mentor role similar to Trey Flowers, but he also, it says he's a scheme fit, but I just don't see it, you know? I'd like to find somebody a little bit bigger. D-tackle is another very important role filler for us, because Vea has had some injuries. Nothing seems to have been long-term. It's been more like just out for the game. But even still, we need to have somebody in there that we can count on in those situations. And so what I'm wondering is if maybe somebody like Justin Jones might not be a quality option. He's not the best overall, but he really just cares more about money, apparently, and he fits our scheme. And he's a bridge player. He knows his role. He's not a guy that's going to be a starter in the league at this point. So let's try and see if we can add Justin Jones to our pool here. And that sort of fills a pretty good position for us on the D-line. We don't have anybody right now behind Vita Vea. And we also need somebody on the offensive line. Whether that's I feel like I need a left tackle for sure. Question is, can I find one that makes sense to bring on? Right? Let's see, is there anybody down here? Oh, that's way too far down. I don't want to bring on somebody that bad of an open. Walker Little might not be a bad option. He's younger. He's a 71. He's very interested in coming here. And then looking at his player card, he's sort of balanced. He's agile, but he's got pass protection, and he's not far off with his power. And he has lead block ability, so he could almost be sort of an in-between lineman. He could fill in across the line for us, even at guard if need be. Just in a pinch, you know. His strength isn't the best, but if we're running West Coast zone run, which I do want to stick to, the strength isn't the most important part, especially for a tackle, because they're dealing with more speed rushers. Of course, you always want to have the most strength as you can, but in our situation, it's not as needed. His pass block finesse is one of his highest ones. Same with his run block finesse, which fits our system. And he's got the lead block, which allows him to play inside and outside on the line for us. So his injury is a little low, a little down there. But if he's only coming in certain situations, I don't think it's that big of a deal for his injury to not be like a 95. So I'm going to offer Walker Little. I'm also thinking of bringing in Okorafor here because he actually fits more of almost like a guard type of position for us, with his run block finesse being, he's more of a run blocker than he is a pass blocker. And yeah, I feel like he might be better suited to be a guard in our system. Plus he has pretty good injury. So I'm going to probably offer both of these guys. I know, not a very fancy free agency, but you guys know how I am with these franchises. I don't want to just sign a bunch of people just because I can. I want to make good decisions. We don't have a lot of cap room, and we need to fill some of these holes. So Justin Jones, a solid number 2 and a rotational player for us on the D-line behind Vita Vea. Drew Dahlman can come in and start for us at center. Nick Cross could be a pretty good find for a future type of player at the safety position, since we don't really have one right now. Walker Little and Chukwuma Okorafor, I think both of those guys offer some type of flexibility for us on the offensive line and are also interested in coming here, and they're not too expensive. So this is going to be our first wave of free agency in our second offseason. So let's go ahead and we're going to do eval offers and see if we can get some of these guys. Okay, so no data is available. So we either got all 5 of them or none of them. And I think we got all 5. We did. Okay, so we got all 5 players. That's very key. That is very key for us. Now let's go and take a look at how this fills out. All right, so Okorafor is here now at right tackle, and I moved Walker Little over to left tackle. And we now have a pretty solid line going into the year. And I think now we have some pretty good depth on the line here for going into season 3. I would like to bring in a center, because most of these guards they don't have the ability to play center. Hainsey was a center in the beginning when I took over the team, if I'm not mistaken, but I moved him to guard, and he's just going to stay there for now. We'll have a decision to make on Gedeke. We didn't see him a lot, but he is going to be coming up soon on a contract. He's 26. I just figured let's upgrade it, even if it's just by 1 overall, and get somebody who's more of a rotational player and can go inside and outside for it. Justin Jones fits very well in our defensive system here behind Vita Vea. The only real position that I did not address yet would be the defensive end position, and we might actually end up taking somebody in the draft for all I know. Not early, but we might end up filling that there. Throughout the rest, we are pretty much set in place. I don't see any real holes on our team at this point. And honestly, what I'm thinking of doing is moving Nick Cross over to free safety. Yeah, he fits in nicely there at free safety. He's very fast, and I think his coverage is coming around. He even has pretty good hit power too, which I like to see. And he's a little bit taller. So, I mean, we could even see a situation where if we can build him up, he could end up taking over at free safety, and we can move Winfield Jr. over to strong safety, where I think Winfield Jr. might actually shine even more than he does at free safety, because he can hit. This, of course, would be after Ryan Neal is gone, because I really like Ryan Neal. I think he is a great safety, and I'm really happy that we have him on the team. So that leaves really one huge opening on this team, and that's the quarterback position. And now the question is, what do we want to do about that quarterback position? We're going to have to go through free agency to really find out where the pieces are going to fall in free agency, and also with the next mock draft. So I'm probably going to go ahead, do a little bit of the simming, and then we'll do a recap of the free agency before we get into more of the draft. All right, so we have reached the end of the free agency period. I did go back and I fixed some things, okay? So this is where it just went over the edge for me. The Texans signed Tua. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Texans. They drafted a guy named CJ Stroud. Hell of a quarterback. And then they signed Tua. So I went in, I made an account for the Texans. I could not recover D'Amico Ryans, unfortunately, because he was made an offensive coordinator for the Saints. Even though he's a defensive coordinator. Whatever. So I couldn't get him back as a coach. I tried. I even went as an owner. Couldn't do it. But I was able to trade Tua to the Dolphins for like their 6th string running back. And I reconfigured his contract again, so now he is on the Dolphins. I also made a profile for the Lions, and I fixed the Lions. So now those two are fixed. So the Lions have Goff back, and Tua is back home with Miami. I'm not going to do that all the time, but when there's things this egregious, I have to, because it's just ridiculous. Goff didn't get a single offer in free agency. The Lions need a quarterback. They had none on the roster, neither of the Dolphins. So now those two guys are back home, and then I sim the rest of the way through. So this is that review. Just wanted to put that out there because this is not showing correctly because the Texans are the ones who initially signed him in free agency. But a very interesting twist. Trey Lance found a new home, and you guys will never guess where he ended up. He ended up with my Vikings. So Trey Lance gets signed by the Vikings. And I didn't see that coming. I didn't even know that Kirk Cousins, did he retire? I didn't even look. Either he retired when I didn't realize it, or he's somewhere else in the stratosphere and I don't remember that he was there. So Trey Lance is the only quarterback for the Vikings. But now that makes things interesting. Now do we have a chance again at Tyler Chambers? Jordan Love ended up going to the Titans, so I don't believe he'll be the starter there, considering they have Will Levis. I'm pretty sure he's already surpassed him. Zach Wilson went to the Raiders. Running back Kenneth Gainwell going to the Saints. That's actually a really good fit. I feel like he could fit that Alvin Kamara type mold, at least from the out of the backfield perspective. Kamara's a much better in-between tackle running back than Gainwell is, but I do believe that fits their passing to the running back type of approach that they like to do. And then that was really the only running back worth mentioning. Keenan Allen goes to the Texans to pair up with CJ Stroud. That should be interesting. Rondale Moore ended up going to the Vikings. Elijah Moore to the Cardinals. Michael Thomas goes to the Panthers. So the longtime Saints receiver now goes to the Panthers, who are apparently just trying to stack their receiving room beyond belief. Because remember last year they signed Mike Williams in free agency from LA, and now Michael Thomas is there. Zay Jones goes to Dallas. Brandon Cooks also goes to Minnesota. DJ Chark goes to Pittsburgh. Claypool, I'm sorry, Panthers fans. Claypool has gone to the Panthers. Harris Marshall to the Steelers. Hardy, okay, so that's pretty much everybody. David Njoku was in free agency. He also goes to the Panthers. They are really trying to surround Bryce Young with all the weapons he wants. David Bakhtiari went back to the Packers. Tyron Smith went to the Rams. Deion Dawkins to the Falcons. Jedrick Wills to the Broncos. That's actually a pretty good fit. And Dan Moore to the Jets. Joel Petonio was really the only one worth mentioning. He goes to the Cardinals. Ryan Jensen, our former center, he goes to the Rams as well. David Andrews to the 49ers. Wyatt Teller to the Vikings. That's a big need filled for the Vikings. They needed some help at guard. Brandon Scherf to the Commanders. Wait. No, he was on the Jaguars, wasn't he? Didn't he get drafted there? Am I not remembering that correctly? Rob Havenstein to the Rams. That's another big piece. They get both tackles figured out. The Rams were in dire need of offensive linemen, so they go ahead and they bring in two guys that'll be able to uplift whatever quarterback ends up going there. I feel like the Rams should have to go somewhere in the draft for one. There was a lot of old heads in free agency. DeMarcus Lawrence being one of them. He goes back to the Cowboys. Zadarius Smith goes to the Saints. Jadeveon Clowney to the Falcons. Mike Danda to the Broncos. And then we get down to the lesser known guys. D-tackle DJ Reader to the Bears. Michael Pierce to the Steelers. Eric Armstead to the Cardinals. Osa Odigizua. Oh my gosh, I can't say his name. But he goes to the Giants. Una Ford to the Dolphins. Raekwon Davis to the Falcons. And Tristan Hill to the Raiders. Not a single right end was signed. Okay. Hassan Reddick also goes to the Texans. Not sure why they did that though. They are pretty sure they're running a 4-3. Unless their new coach maybe is switching to a 3-4. I'll have to check that out. I'm also going to do that this offseason too. After I get done with this, I'm going to go through all the teams and make sure everybody is set up properly. I mentioned that after somebody commented about that a long time ago on some video. But that is something I will be doing too. After each offseason, I'm going to go through, check what the schemes are, and make sure the teams are set up properly to handle those schemes, because I don't want any cheap wins and I don't want any bad results because of Madden's poor handling of these kind of situations. Shaq Thompson goes back to the Panthers. Ernest Jones to the Falcons. I like that move. They needed a linebacker. They get some youth there. Kaiser White to the Colts. Divine Diablo to the Jets. Monty Rice to the Dolphins. And Jonathan Ware. I didn't know Jonathan Ware was a free agent. How was he a free agent? Wasn't he not just on like the offensive, like defensive rookie of the year totals? That is weird. He is only a 72 overall though, so I'm wondering if maybe he just got like thrust into a starting position because of an injury and then just balled out. But oh, the Saints find now that's the Saints now have their middle linebacker for the future to potentially replace Demario Davis. I like that move. And then Braxton Keenan, another young guy in his second season, was signed to the Falcons, who had star development. Look at that. Looks like I should have looked more down the list, I guess, in free agency. Could have found some more additional pieces. I guess I'm an idiot. And then at the corner, there was a lot of veteran, high caliber corners in the offseason, in the free agency period. Byron Murphy going to the Cowboys makes sense considering Stephon Gilmore just retired. They needed another body to pair with Trayvon Diggs. Teron Johnson goes to the Vikings. That's another big signing. Rasul Douglas to the Steelers. That's big because Patrick Peterson retired. And they also bring in Desmond King. So that's good. They're rounding out that corner room. Avonte Maddox to the Falcons. Shaquille Griffin to the Rams. Levi Wallace to the Colts. Isaiah Oliver to the Commanders. Michael Carter to the Raiders. Benjamin St. Juste to the Commanders, or back to the Commanders? Yeah, he was on the Commanders. Marco Wilson to the Eagles, and Marcus Peters to the Broncos. Free safeties, Micah Hyde leaving Buffalo, and is now going to travel back to the NFC North. For those of you who maybe not remember, Micah Hyde was initially a Packer before they, for some stupid reason, let him go. And now he is in Chicago. Jimmy Ward at 34, going to San Francisco. Xavier Woods going to the Jets, and Caden Stearns to the Eagles. In strong safety, not a huge class at strong safety. Jordan Whitehead going to the Jags. Sean Elliott to the Rams. Chuck Clark to the Broncos, and Adrian Phillips to the Saints. And now let's take a look at the mock draft, the newest mock draft. So this is after free agency is done. The trading that I did before is done. The re-signings are done. Now this is going to tell us where we're going to have to be to try and get a quarterback, and I'm hoping we get some good news. Oh, wow, so things got shaken up a little bit. Now the Rams do not want to go after Nathan Solomon. They want to go after Mac Bradshaw. I did not see that one coming. I did not. That is very... okay. Nathan Solomon now falls to the Raiders, who they do need a receiver, a quality number one. So that's not a bad option for them. I would definitely take them if I was the Raiders. Harry Hayes going to the Broncos. Dom Osgood to the Commanders. James Ellsworth. He came up here. He was much farther down the list. I think he was back towards the... he was back by our pick, was he not? And now he's going way up here at 5. Steve Irwin going at 6. TJ Grubbs, he was farther down in the last mock draft. Where was he? Yeah, TJ Grubbs was actually listed at the at 21 in the last mock draft we saw, and now the Bears have decided not to sign somebody different other than Justin Fields. So now they are not going quarterback. That's good for us. That is big. I'm not sure what made them change their minds. Maybe they lost somebody in free agency they thought they were going to get, and now they realize that their edge rusher is way more important, which it is. Neil Wolf going at 8. Reggie Wilson. Shaquille Johnson. Now, this guy at one point was going 5th overall, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he was going 5th overall to the Steelers. But now in this one, he falls down to 10. Dudley Long goes after him. Taj Woodward, who also was pretty high in the last mock draft, is falling to 12. Nasir Wheatley moves up a little bit. Oscar Poole, Deacon Pemberton to the Texans. Jeremiah Farr, David Cruz, and now they have Everett Roper going to the Jets. And now the Packers, who got rid of Jordan Love, are going to take Tyler Chambers. Are we screwed right now? I don't know how we're going to work this. Jaleel Below going to the Colts now at 20. Carl Horn at 21. Dennis Reeves, Quincy McPhee, Troy Borden, and then John Overton now goes to the Vikings since they've answered so many questions. David DeMarco, and they have us taking Julian Magana. Now, not that I have Magana as a horrible quarterback option, but I also don't have him exactly as a very top option. At one point, he was the number 2 quarterback. He fell down below Tyler Chambers here in one of the latest scouting situations. And just looking at his line here, For the most part, it's not too bad. But once you get down to like break sack as a D, throw on the run B to D, injury C to F, stamina C to F, we don't know exactly where this stuff falls. It's a little bit, it's not as good as Tyler Chambers. We know Tyler Chambers is a round 1 talent. We know that he is a scrambler, and we know that he's got the best spread out of all of these guys here in the in the draft class. I do feel that obviously Magana being a strong arm archetype is going to be a better fit for our offense because we're running Dallas's book. Dallas is not a quarterback running type of team. There's a few plays that get called. So depending on where we end up going in the draft, we might have to change playbooks to better fit our quarterback if we end up having to go a guy like Magana, or if for some reason we end up with Roper. But Chambers right now fits what we do the best, I think. He's got a lot of good categories here. A's in throw under pressure and break sack. Those were 2 areas that I think Trey Lance suffered in. The throw under pressure especially. And break sack, he couldn't really break a sack to save his life. Throw on the run also is something that we like because Trey Lance did do that pretty well. When he had to move out of the pocket and sling it, we saw some incredible plays from him. So I would like to have that ability in a quarterback again. So now it's looking like if we want a chance at any of the other quarterbacks outside of Magana, we're probably gonna have to move up to 17 because the Jets need a quarterback. So do the Packers. And if we trade up and they know we need a quarterback, they're not going to want to trade with us. You know, why would they trade down? They need a quarterback. Now they could take another one, but what can we offer one of these teams to get into their positions? We need a lot of movement to be able to do that. That is tough. That really changes this whole offseason now. All right, so now it's time for us to do the private workouts. And at first, I wasn't going to do any quarterbacks, but now I almost feel like I have to do Magana. We're not even going to unlock him fully. He's still at 50%. We could look at some offensive linemen, maybe Preston Knowles. He's going to be in our area, I believe. I didn't see his name pop up. But we don't really need a tackle right now. I see that Horn and Farr are both going to be going already before we get on the board, and I'm not going to, if I'm trading up again, sort of like last year, I know if I'm trading up, it's for a quarterback, similar to what I did with Wharton. I knew we were trading up for Taylor Wharton. I wasn't trading up for a lineman. I'm not going to do it again this year. Do we want to maybe try and look at one of these centers to see if they're worth something later? But again, we won't be able to unlock them. They're not completed enough for us to get a full 100, and I really want to get a full 100 for this situation. To look at some defensive ends maybe, but I think Timmy Baker's got that locked down. I really don't think we need to go after one right now. You know, things have just, no, this is how things change. You know, at the beginning of the season, I was completely convinced we'd have to go after a D lineman, right? Maybe for a defensive end or an outside linebacker. And Frankie Louvu ended up becoming a hit. Jermaine Johnson played better than I anticipated throughout the season. He actually made quite a few plays for us at outside linebacker. So the edge rusher sort of went out the window. Cansey had a very quiet year, so I don't think I can 100% rule out defensive end, but I really am excited to see what Timmy Baker can do at defensive end now that we moved him out there. Hopefully we can take advantage of some of his strong suits now more, that he's not behind Vita Vea. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to find some of these defensive ends and we're going to try to learn a little bit more about them. So I'm thinking Javon Jones, we already did him once. I want to see what he's fully unlocked. Is he 6'3", 320? He might be a long-term solution for us at D tackle, because Vita Vea is not getting any younger. You know what I mean? And he's not getting any cheaper either. So if we can find somebody instead, if we can't make a move for a quarterback, you know, in this draft, dang, this really sucks, man. This has sort of changed every type of scenario I had in my head. And then let's see here. Maybe you want to look at some defensive tackles to see how they would fit. Thinking about the D line now, I'm thinking of maybe doing. So we have Javon Jones. I feel like maybe I should try to do something on the O-line to get some more information about some of these players. And the one that's really standing out to me is Devin McGrath. Looking at him on the spreadsheet here, he has everything except jump is good. And he has a lot of blue filled out in here. He doesn't have too many areas that are of concern. The only one is injury. And I've done some testing with injury. I did a draft. I did like a separate franchise, and I just started simming through and looking at different things. And what I found is it appears that most injuries, their low end, like if they have an F rating, are like 78 to 80. And then if they have a story about their injury is when you can see them drop down to like the 40s, 50s, and 60s, that kind of stuff. So I'm starting to lean away from absolutely hating every prospect with an F rating. So if he has a potential of C to F, and we know that the floor is roughly 77 to 80, maybe high 70, 77 to 79, and he has it up to an average grade, I was finding people up to the 90s with injury. So I'm wondering if that would put him between, let's just say, a potential of 77 and let's just say, I don't know, 84, right? 83, 84, which really isn't too bad considering what the rest of the league is at. And with that being his only thing that I'm concerned about, everything else is looking really good here. His awareness is good. Pass block power is good. We need to work on his pass block finesse a little bit. But having the impact blocking is good. He's just an all-around good prospect. Whereas somebody like Troy Borden here, he has some good stuff, but his pass block is even worse, right? His pass block finesse is a B, but we know that of him. We don't know what McGrath is. He could be an A. We just don't know. So I'm assuming it's not as great as it could be. And we know that his pass block power is a little worse. So I just feel like even though with his injury a little bit better, that McGrath might be a good option at right tackle. So I'm thinking of going Javon Jones, and I'm thinking of going with Devin McGrath as another one. And then we just have to find a third guy to do this with to unlock. I'm not going to find out enough about McGrath, but I will get him to almost 90%, which should give me enough information given the rest of the tackles to find out if he really is this good. Because if some of those A to C's are A's, I mean, this guy is a steal. And that gives us another good option at the back end of the first round. If things go haywire, we can't go quarterback. And then with that being in mind, I think I'm going to do the third one with Julian Magana. So that way we have a better understanding of what some of those spreads that he has are. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So there we go. Those three are going to be the guys. We have Javon Jones at left end, Devin McGrath at right tackle, and Julian Magana at quarterback for our focus players. All right, so now we are to the final stage of the offseason before the draft, and this is what we're looking like with Julian Magana. We have him at 90%. We now know he's got great throw power, and these are his skills as it's sitting currently. Here, let me pull up the spreadsheet as well. So here we go. Julian Magana, he was number 2 at the beginning of the season. He is now down here at 4. Like in terms of the draft, how the draft looks, and then it's Chambers at 2 and Stevens at 3. But I'm still looking at Magana as being the very least the third best quarterback. I don't think that Stevens has him beat by a long shot, and we know now that his awareness is at least an A or a B. So we know that Magana has at least the same rating for awareness, or the same grade awareness that both Roper and Chambers have. We also know that his short accuracy is an A, so that gives him an A in both short accuracy and medium accuracy. Him and Chambers are tied at B for deep accuracy, but Roper has them beat in deep accuracy. Throw under pressure is where you see the first, I think, big difference. We also, here's another good one. Magana has great throw power, whereas Chambers was downgraded to good essentially after they finished the physicals. So I was hoping he'd have great. He ends up having good. So we know he's probably going to have, like, I would say 87 to like 89 throw power. And I'm assuming Roper is going to have like 95 plus, and then Magana is going to be somewhere in the middle there. He's probably going to be like 90 to 93 or something like that. The big difference here is in break sack. He has a D. He's not gonna be able to get out of the pocket very well, but he's also a strong arm, so that's something that's sort of anticipated a little bit. And we know his play action is on the same level now as Chambers, if not better. And we know it's better than Roper. Throw on run is another area where he is going to falter a little bit, whereas Chambers is going to excel. Injury is D and F. Same with stamina, DF. Carry, C. I'm not sure how to assume that this is going to treat quarterbacks, right? So now we know he's probably at the very top, given what I found out, 81 to 83, maybe something along those lines for an injury rating, maybe 80 on the dot. I don't know. This is all speculation, but I'm just assuming that if we know that the floor for injury having an F is like 77, 78, and the other ones and the highest is like 90, sometimes over 90, you have to imagine this is probably at the very best an 81, 82. And honestly though, like if you really think about it, what we're trying to do, how often did Trey Lance really run? Not very often, especially towards the end there. He did a few times, but there was also a lot of plays where he didn't make the throws that he needed to make. And I'm not against having a strong arm. I'm not against having a scrambler. I'm just trying to think of the team's situation with draft capital and our positioning. So right now, I don't think Magana is actually a bad prospect now after unlocking a little bit more of him. I wish I knew more about what his actual talent was to see if it's actually close to round one or if it's way below, because nobody knows until we unlock it. But we can tell that it's probably pretty similar, given that this whole section right here, the only real big difference is his break sack ability. And that, of course, is something that will get better too. Like the fact that he's coming in with 2 A's at accuracy and great throw power, and he's on par with the other 2 guys that we're looking at with awareness, that is almost making me consider maybe just staying put and taking Magana at 29. And obviously I wish I could have your guys' opinions on this if I could have done the live stream that I wanted to do, but I won't be able to do that for this offseason. I just won't. Not with me having to work this weekend. So I apologize, but next offseason, I think we'll make it a priority to do the live stream. So that way, you guys are involved and we can, chit chat while it's going on and all that. So, but anyway, at this point, I'm not totally against Magana being the pick at number 29. And that brings us to Devin McGrath, who was the other guy that we did outside of Javon Jones. We now have 90% of him unlocked, and then here's how he stacks up with the rest of the class. I love having this, man. I really do. We know that he pretty much is strong everywhere except injury and pass block finesse, which is sort of important for us at left tackle or right tackle. He's also not very quick either. Solid across the board for speed, excel, and agility. Great strength, which is good. Not elite, but it's great. Marginals, jumping, and great COD. I almost wonder if McGrath is a better guard than he is a tackle at this point. Just with, he doesn't need as much speed and agility playing at guard. And with his pass block finesse being on the fritz a little bit compared to the rest of them, he looks like he would actually be a better guard than he would a tackle. So I don't think this is somebody that I really want to go with for a first round pick. And now on to Javon Jones, the one guy that we were able to get to 100%, and he fits right where his projection says he should. Round 1 to 2 talent. And honestly, he doesn't look all that bad. Let's take a look at how he stacks up. So looking here at Javon Jones, the one thing that really stands out is he is definitely not a defensive end. I feel like he's better fit at nose tackle. Those solid and poor numbers, I think, go up to maybe good to great area, and then solid to good for agility if he's at D tackle where people aren't expected to move as fast. Looking here at the rest of his grades, he actually has a lot of really good attributes. The one area where he needs a lot of work is finesse moves. He's average at power moves, but he's got good tackle, good pursuit, good play rec, good awareness, block shedding is good, hit power and impact block is good, which will help in the run game. His injury is at a B, which is very helpful considering some of the injuries we've had on the D line, and his stamina is at a B. So this is not a very bad prospect. I wish some of these numbers here were better. he's just, you know, it's just not his cup of tea. He's more of a run stopper. He's not going to be a guy that's going to get after the quarterback that well. You know, and looking at the combine and pro day, it's very apparent that he's not very quick or fast, but this dude is strong. Broad jump, he's third, and then he's first in bench press. I don't know what happened in the broad jump for his pro day, but he fell off a cliff from 3rd to 27th. That's a little weird. Don't see that too often, but he's still very strong. 38 reps there. So maybe he had a rough day at his pro day. I don't know. So that's sort of where we're at right now, man. I'm really not 100% sure which one of these guys are worth it and if we don't want to trade up. But then the question becomes, if we do try to trade up, what do we do? What do we give up? So after going through this and talking it out with you guys and showing you guys the spreadsheet and considering where we're at in the draft, I need to show you guys where we at for draft picks. So let's go and take a look at that here. We are very depleted in the draft pick department thanks to our trade up for Taylor Wharton. We have a 1, a 3, a 4, and a 7. We are hurting. So I think there's a couple of things that have to be done here. One, I feel as if I need to make a trade to get a few more draft picks. Nothing crazy. And two, in our current dilemma of not knowing if Magana is worth a pick, knowing if we can move up to get a guy like Chambers, who I think all of us are sort of high on at this point with the draft process, I stumbled upon my old thoughts of the quarterback that we've all seen already, and the one that is out there stuck on a bench that has the potential to maybe be something. And it just so happens that he is at the top of the list for that trade block, and that is Dontrell Samuel. So if we were deciding to, instead of taking a quarterback, trading for Dontrell Samuel, we're doing so knowing two things. One, chances are he's going to be a lower overall than the quarterback we could get in the draft. Secondly, we know that he's star dev. We know we're not getting any superstar X Factor quarterback, at least up front, but we do have a year of work to look at. And let's sort of compare what we assume are his stats to that of the spreadsheet. So he has 90 throw power. I think that's safe to assume that that's probably on par with good to great, right? I would say very high ceiling for good, very, very low for great. I think great is 91 to 95. I could be mistaken, and then elite, of course, is above 95. I know that for a fact. I'm just not sure where the cutoff is for good to great. So if we're taking Chambers, for instance, 90 might be the very most he could get out of his good rating of throw power. Whereas Magana, we might be giving up some of that potential throw power. But in the terms of the scrambling world, he is on par with throw power with Tyler Chambers. Awareness. This is where I'm a little hesitant, because we have this exact situation with Trey Lance where the awareness really seemed to hurt him down the stretch. And at being a 63, well, 62, if you don't count the extra +1 he's getting, that's actually taking a step back from Trey Lance. We also know that his short and medium accuracy is both at an 81, which I would assume is probably an A tier for a rookie quarterback. Maybe a B in some situations. And his deep accuracy is a 71, which I would put at probably a C. C to even a D possibly. I don't know. I don't know what the spread is for the quarterbacks really. I didn't go too in depth with that stuff in my test franchise. I probably will be doing that, you know, now going forward, but I'm just not sure. And then we go down here. Carrying, we know carrying is 76. That's probably going to be an A rating for a quarterback, if not a B. We know he's fast, very fast. We know he's got good stamina. Injury, he'd probably have a C to F, D to F range at a 79, and toughness is probably a C. When you look at this list, I feel like a move for Samuel, while it might be cheaper, is not even going to get us what Magana probably already is with that awareness. I mean, his awareness could be an A. You know, he could have the best awareness out of all these quarterbacks for all we know yet. I don't think that he'll be on par with the accuracies for sure, especially deep accuracy. We know all three of these guys, and hell, even potentially Pat Stevens could have a decent deep accuracy rating. So part of me wants to explore that trade option, but the other part of me thinks that he's a lower overall than Tyler Huntley. And even though it would be a pretty cool story to take somebody from the Eagles because they're stuck on a bench and we know what we're getting in them. Look at how low his overalls are for everything other than scrambler. And this is something a lot of people don't look at when you're evaluating positions, especially for CPU play. So his overall is a 71, 72 with morale. His scrambler is 71. So when he runs and maybe throws on the run, he's a 71 overall. But when he's doing anything else in terms of quarterbacking, he's a 64 at best. So while he had a good game against us, I don't know if that can be treated as such a set in stone display of what he will do week to week, or if that was more of an outlier and that was just a fluke good week that he had. Maybe we know our defense is rough. Maybe that's why he played well. But I would rather hinge on the fact that we might get a guy who is 73 to 75 out of the draft and be much more balanced across the archetypes board here. Because when you really break down what that is, when you put that into a calculator, right, just do your old school averaging out for a number. You take 71 plus 64 plus 64 plus 63 and divide it by 4 to find an average. He's pretty much a 65 overall quarterback. And that's just not something that I think is a smart decision. So we're not going to go the Dontrell Samuel route. I can safely say that. And with that being said, there's nobody else on this trade market that really warrants that type of a decision. You know, yes, these are all young guys, but they're even worse than Samuel. And we don't even know if Samuel's on par with, you know, I mean, we could also see guys that are coming out of the draft that are the same as Dontrell Samuel ratings wise, lower down the list, like Pat Stevens, Tom Green, Stephen Douglas. Brian Anderson could be a decent one because he had a story about taking over the starting job. So, and that brought me to my next idea. And that idea is, can I make a trade with one of these teams? You know, let's say I decided I'm okay with not taking Roper. I want Chambers. Can I make a trade with the Packers to get that pick from them to where it's not too crazy of a pick that it's going to cost us a ton? And it just so happens that the Packers are in desperate need of wide receivers. Could I maybe try to take Quez Watkins and our first and try to flip that for Green Bay's first and maybe something else to sweeten the deal? Now, we will take a salary cap hit for trading Quez Watkins, but we also save quite a bit. So while we'll have I think it's like a $3 or $4 million penalty against us, we're actually still saving $4 to $5 million. So it is still a surplus. So we went from 6.7 or 6.8 to 9.7. So in all, after everything is said and done, we do end up saving $3 million against the cap by trading Quez Watkins. And I know he had a great season, but we know Trey Palmer showed flashes. Nathan Givens even came on towards the end of the season and made that huge play in the championship game for us. And I'm going to keep working on him. If we can get by with Trey Palmer and Nathan Givens as our 3 and 4 and trade Watkins at the height of his trade potential, he's coming off of a 10 touchdown season, to a team desperate for receivers in order to get our quarterback of the future, I think that is worth the trade. I'm going to see if this is even remotely close to moving up. So let's just see what happens here. Okay, so we're actually really close here. Don't feel it's enough value, but look how close it is in the trade interest bar. So what else can we do with the Packers to try and make this work? I don't want to give up any more picks. I feel like that's a bad decision. One other area that they have as a need is left end. And while Logan Hall is not going to be any type of home run pickup for them, he does fit their system. He would also fill a position of need right here. He would be an instant starter. Their starter at left end is a 67 overall, and they don't have anybody else behind him that could even remotely become their starter. Like, they don't have an option right now. Now, is this like an awesome trade package? No, but I am including the first round pick. So I am essentially giving up a 10 touchdown season from Quez Watkins, who showed that he could potentially be a game changer at wide receiver, to a wide receiver needy team where he becomes a starter, and giving them a 25-year-old defensive end who instantly upgrades their defensive line situation. And they're still in the first round. They're just 10 picks later, and they could take a guy like Julian Magana. We don't have to, right? So I'm going to see if this trade works. I also threw a 7th in there to see if that helps sweeten the pot a little bit. So it'll be 2 picks and 2 players. And we do have 2 7ths this year. I forgot about that. So we would still have a 7th round pick, just not 2 of them. And they take it. They accept the trade. So now we have the 19th pick. Yes, the 19th pick in the first round. And we can go ahead and hopefully take Tyler Chambers as long as nothing crazy happens between now and the trade start and the draft starting. I also mentioned moving on from somebody like Isaiah Rodgers. While he played well for us, he played great out of the slot, more so in the sack department. He didn't make a lot of noise in the actual coverage game, but he was getting in there a lot on the blitzes. We have Paul Bronson, who I think is going to be special. And I want him on the field. If we can trade Isaiah Rodgers to just get a couple of picks, that might end up being what gets our draft back to normal, right? So let's just see what the get offers tab has. I don't want to trade for a running back. Don't want to trade for running back. Not that guy. Why would I trade a corner for a worse corner? No. 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 That is actually sort of intriguing because I liked Will Allen coming out of college, but no. John Mechie, while also intriguing, we don't need another receiver, and we do not need Garrett Bradbury at center. So given the fact that the Eagles desperately need corner help, what if I just offer them Isaiah Rodgers for their second round pick, which is essentially the 3rd round pick? It's pick 64 in the 2nd round. I don't even know if they'd accept this, but I just want to see how close we are to them accepting it. Okay, guys, I did not expect them to say yes to that trade. I thought this was going to be a starting point, and I could gauge where we had to get down to maximize our return. And they accepted the trade. So while we don't get a very good 2nd round pick, we at least have another really early 3rd round pick to work with by getting rid of Isaiah Rodgers. And now our draft looks a little bit more normal. We have the 19th pick from Green Bay, where we can take the quarterback that we want. We now have a back end 2nd or early 3rd. We have our own 3rd, a 4th, and 1 7th round pick this year. I really like how this offseason has played out so far. I think we've made some good moves. Yes, we had to move on from players that we brought in last year. We're going to take hits on that salary cap, but we maximized their abilities. We showed the rest of the teams how good they can be, and then use that to our advantage to get some draft stock back into our possession. Next year is looking even worse, so we might do a trade down or two this draft to try and recoup some of next year's draft stock, because we have a 1, 2, and 5 next year. But yeah, right now it looks like this draft is going to go smooth as can be. I just wanted to show you guys this quick as well, because I'm not sure if I showed this in the beginning, and I also wanted to make sure you guys understand that I have the difficulty turned to hard for trade, and I have high for free agent motivational impact. So if you guys are curious about that, there you go. But also, I honestly did not expect that 2nd round pick trade to go through. So apparently Madden still has some work to do, or maybe Isaiah Rodgers is really that guy. But either way, I'm happy. We have ourselves a solid draft stock now after the trade. All right, so here we are in the draft, and it is time for us to see what the situation is with the Rams. Now, just before we get started here, if you guys run into this issue in your franchise, I want you to know I just had the same issue, and I had to back out of the franchise and go back in about 3 times for it to fix itself. When I first went to start the draft, there was just a blank screen, and I couldn't touch any of the buttons. I couldn't do anything. Like, none of the buttons worked. Like, skip ahead in the draft didn't work. View draft board didn't work. So I backed out, came back in, started the draft again, and this time the buttons worked, but there was no picture here for the draft. It was just, again, a blank background for like your team color. And when I skipped ahead, it didn't tell me who was picked at all. So I had to back out again, and then when I finally came back, now I'm on this screen, so I'm hoping it works now. So just keep that in mind if you guys are doing an off-season and you're like, why is the draft not showing? Just try to back out and then go back in and see if that fixes it. So let's go ahead and let's skip to the next pick. And like it said, Mac Bradshaw is going first overall, which means this should be Nathan Solomon. It is Nathan Solomon, the wide receiver. I'm really excited to see what his overall is. I feel like he is going to be like a tremendous player. He might even be like one of those generational players that I have yet to find in my own franchises. And then the Broncos go Kerry Hayes, Dom Osgood to the Commanders, James Ellsworth to the Steelers, Steve Irwin to the Panthers, DJ Grubbs to the Bears. So things are going right along how they said they would. Reggie Wilson, Neil Johnston to the Saints, Dudley Long to the Giants, Taj Woodward to the Cardinals, Nasir Wheatley to the Falcons, Oscar Poole to the Patriots, Deacon Pemberton to the Texans, Jeremiah Farr to the Jaguars, David Cruz to the Titans, and Everett Roper to the Jets. So now we're sitting here at pick 19. We have gotten our one rival for Tyler Chambers out of the way with the Green Bay Packers. And part of me wants to see if there's any trade package to go back like 1 or 2 picks to try and steal an extra draft pick or 2. So just for references for you guys looking, this is the 2025 draft. So if you see 2026 or 2027, that is not current year. So pick 28, I do not want to go back that far. I don't think that's a smart decision. No, don't want to go back that far. See, now this is a decent option, but only picking up a 6th and 7th just seems a little weak. Here's one that is intriguing. The San Francisco 49ers would trade up from 23, and in return, we would get a 6th-round pick this year, which would be helpful. We do not have one right now, but we'd also get a 4th and a 7th next year, which would help get some back. We would have a 1, 2, 4, 5, and 7 then next year. So we would really only be missing a 3rd and a 6th, which is much better than what we have right now. Don't want to go that far back. That one might not be bad. The Niners coming up wouldn't be a bad play, right? Because they have their quarterback in Brock Purdy. I don't believe the Miami Dolphins coming up wouldn't be a bad play either, because we know that they have Tua. We would get the 24th pick, and then we would pick up just 2 picks next year, which is a 3rd and a 6th, which honestly wouldn't be a bad option, because we're getting a 4th and a 7th next year with another 6th this year for 1 pick sooner. The question is that whole round worth 1 extra pick ahead at 23 as opposed to 24 to pair with that extra 7th round pick? I just don't know if it is. I honestly feel like the trade with the 49ers might be a very solid trade here, because we could still get Chambers. I don't think there's any other team in between that is looking at quarterback. And we get 2 picks next year, which is a year where we only have 3 picks, and we have a 6 extra this year, which will help us get a few more extra players, and maybe that fullback that I wanted to draft. Hopefully, if he lasts that long. I don't know where they plan on. Sometimes those fullbacks go like 3rd round. You know what I mean? I don't want to take a fullback in the 3rd round, but if he's there in the 6th or 7th, I would definitely take a flyer on him. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's take this pick here. Let's take this trade. Drop down to 23. That's 4 picks, and we'll pick up a 4th, 6th, and 7th for doing so. Okay, so here we go. Now let's hope we don't get screwed over. That would be really crappy if they ended up taking a quarterback here. Okay, so they go Quincy McPhee. The Colts go Bulo, the middle linebacker. The Bengals go Carl Horn. And the Seahawks go Dennis Reed. So we are here back on the clock. And as much as I would like to potentially still try to take advantage of the CPU and get more draft picks, because we're clear until 29, I think, or at least until the Bills, I just, no, I'm not going to do that because that's just, then it gets a little too outrageous. So we already did a 1 trade down. Let's stay here and let's make Tyler Chambers our next quarterback here. So let's go make a pick. Tyler Chambers is a guy that we have been talking about since the beginning of the season as a potential fit in this system. I've seen your guys' comments regarding him. We know he's a round 1 talent. So let's go ahead and let's make Tyler Chambers the next quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, so he actually had better throw power than I thought he would. 91 throw power, 81 speed, 87 change of direction, 87 agility, 90 acceleration. And he's hidden dev, which is awesome. So I feel like we've got ourselves a pretty solid quarterback now moving forward. And now we don't pick until the end of the 2nd round. And I know I'm not trading up because I just do not have the draft capital to do that. So we're just going to go ahead and start simming through. There goes McKinley. That was the corner I was looking at. Redmond, one of the defensive ends. John Overton to the Vikings. I'm curious if the Packers end up going with Magana since he's here. They do. So they go with Julian Magana. So now it's going to be, were we smart to trade up with the Packers and get Chambers, or did we make a bad decision? We'll have to check those ratings out after the draft to see what it looks like. Because if Magana ends up being like the better quarterback prospect, I'm gonna look like an idiot. Max Hunter, that was another good, that was another top corner that I was looking at, and he goes to the Chiefs. That's a solid pickup for them. The Ravens gonna go Ronnie Wesley at D tackle. And then the Eagles, they go Glenn McAllister at defensive end. So with our trade, they probably didn't have to target corner now, and they went with a defensive end. Nice. And now we're into the 2nd round. So LA, remember, they opted for an edge rusher in Mac Bradshaw, and they do not have a quarterback outside of Baker Mayfield. So let's see if they go for one of the guys that is left, like, you know, Pat Stevens or Tom Green, Stephen Douglas, or if they just let these guys sit there and take somebody different. They do go Pat Stevens. That was the last round 1 quarterback for projection on the board. So Pat Stevens is now gone, and the Raiders are on the clock. And there goes Devin McGrath. That was the tackle that I was looking at. He ends up going a few picks after where we would have been, and we decided not to jump up and take a quarterback. Vinny Mariani, a left tackle, goes after him. And then the Commanders take Juan Bartel. There's the first running back off the board. Javon Jones goes to the Steelers. I'm really interested to see what his overall ends up being and how slow he really ends up looking. The Bears come back for George Foster. That was who the Eagles were initially mocked to go for, and I think mock draft 3. So they changed course, went for a defensive end, and then Foster falls to the Bears at pick, 39? Alex Aldridge, strong safety for the Bears, back-to-back picks for them. Lamont McIntyre, he goes to the Lions, a corner. Carl Robinson. So now we're starting to see a few more secondary players go off the board. Preston Knowles at left tackle goes to the Eagles. Juan Cumberland, D tackle, going to the Giants. Didn't they just sign one too? I think they did. Elvin Allison, a left guard. I think that's the 3rd or 4th left guard that's gone. Jaleel Shelton, receiver out of Ohio State, goes to the Falcons. Mike Boyd, receiver out of Alabama. No shot that the Patriots just drafted a short white wide receiver. At least Madden gets some things right. I mean, for how much this game gets wrong, that's what's important, is sticking to the Patriot way and drafting undersized white wide receivers. Dalvin Barlow goes to the Browns. Tevin Cooks goes to the Jaguars. That was a safety that I was looking at, but I didn't think we'd be able to land because it was just too much of a weird scenario. I didn't want to take him in the 1st round, and I didn't see him falling back far enough for us to take, but he was like one of the only guys above 6 foot at the safety position. He's like 6'3", if I remember correctly, like 215, 220. So we'll check in on him afterwards as well. Titans go Jaden Stanley. He was actually the top corner. He was the top corner at the beginning of the season. I'm not 100% sure if he was still the top corner towards the end, but he fell all the way past like 3 or 4 corners already. I wonder what's going on with him. Dylan Strong, second tight end off the board to the Jets. The Packers take a running back, Tremaine Green. That's actually smart for them because they have Aaron Jones, who's getting older, and they had nobody behind him. So now they'll have a nice 1-2 punch again, and they have their guy for the future potentially. And there goes another running back, Marvin Garland, to the Titans. And another running back, Trey Gilmore, to the Bengals. Okay, they're just flying off the board here. Markel Sheldon, another good safety. He was a guy that I thought would be a really good thumper at strong safety, but not at free safety. And the Seahawks end up taking him. That fits with what they like, or what we know in the Seahawks to be when they were at their peak with the Legion of Boom. So that's a nice pick for them. Jake Ogle, another tackle, goes to the 49ers. That's big because they have a lot of old guys on that team, and they're going to need to start bringing in some youth. Bryce Griffin, this guy is the most physically gifted. He was the very athletic type tight end build. He's like 235. Dolphins get him to add to that awesome offense they have right now with all that speed. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Edward Roten, another safety, going to the Cowboys. Tony Fox, defensive end, to the Chargers. Ben Davidson, a running back, going to the Vikings. Jonathan Pryor, middle linebacker, going to the Bills. I think that's the first middle linebacker we saw go since the beginning of the draft in the first round, with Bulow going to, I believe it was it the Raiders that he go to? Maybe the Panthers? Marcus Herbert. Oh, sorry, not Herbert. Hebert. Going to the Patriots. And here we go. We're coming up on another pick. Radarius Thomas. And last before us is the Ravens, and they go Spencer Johnson. Okay, actually I lied. I think Spencer Johnson was the one that was very, very athletic. Him and Bryce Griffin both, but I think Johnson was the one that was almost reminded me of like a really big receiver. And now we're here, pick 32 in the second round. And now it's time to see who is available on this board for it. So apparently Darren Andrews is now not a day 3 prospect like he was at the beginning of the season. So maybe I still can get him in the 7th round. We'll see. And I'm just looking through the list here. I don't think I need to go wide receiver. Do not need a tight end. Let's see. Here on the line, Philip Hancock is available, but he should not be going until much later. We're going to be trying to find those guys that are round 3 to 4 or round 2 to 3 that fell. Zach Jordan, I think he had a bad story, did he? No, it was the other guy, Alec Patterson, that had a tough story for him. And yeah, he fell pretty far here down to day 3. There is actually like barely any prospects here that I even want. That's crazy. And the pool for guys that are available is just so limited. All right, so I looked through the entire remaining players list, and there are a few guys that I'm intrigued by later on in the draft, but nobody that I really want to take this high. So I think I'm going to try and do another trade down to see if we can either get some later picks or maybe get some future picks to restore our stock for next season. And right now, the Bills are offering a second and fourth next year and a 7th this year, which I guess isn't too bad. I would almost like to. Okay, so this one is a 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 7th. Holy cow, Denver! Who do you want that bad? They're like, here, take my entire next year's draft. I just need to take this guy. Texans are a little bit more sensible. A 3rd round pick and a 7th next year. Vikings, a 2nd, 4th, and 6th next year. That 2nd next year for the Vikings might actually be good. I know for a fact the Vikings playbook is not the best, and they just picked up Trey Lance, who we know isn't the best quarterback in the world. Could use a little reverse psychology and get ourselves like a mid to early 2nd round pick next season. The Titans, they're offering a 3rd this year, pick 81, 4th next year. That's 2 years from now for the 4th, and a 7th next year. The Seahawks, they really want somebody. Wow. 2nd round pick and a 7th next year, and then a 6th and 7th this year. All right, so we have the 23rd if we got rid of the second, we still have a third and a fourth yet this year. So if we trade the second and just get a bunch of picks for next year, we'll actually be back on track to having normalcy, if not extra draft picks or a surplus of draft picks for us next year. So I think I might go with that option. And if Denver wants to be stupid and give us like their entire 2026 draft, I'm on board with it. They have a young quarterback. Their team is getting older. They're trying to replace a lot of key veterans that are regressing. This could end up being higher picks. So I'm on board with it. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take this Denver Broncos offer, and we're just going to trade our second round pick altogether for a bunch of random picks next year. And now I'm going to go ahead and sim to the next pick that we have. And now we are sitting at the end of the third. And let's see who is still available for us to take at this point. So some of these guys are still available that were available last pick. So that tells me that we dodged a bullet there. And now something to consider is Alec Patterson. Now this is a guy that at the beginning of the season was rated a little bit higher. He was rounds 3 to 4. And he fell because of a mild pro day. Unimpressed and decent was the words that scouts used. But look at his numbers. Okay? His physicals, great. Elite. He's got top 5 in every category. And his skills, including injury, are all rated rather high. I think this might be a great pick for us at this point. I think he's actually a steal that somebody else just decided they didn't want to deal with. And if we can get him ahead of time before our next pick, I think that's be the best option, because we don't pick for another 32 selections. So if we don't take him now, we won't get him. And center is one of our bigger needs, because we don't know what Dahlman's going to be able to do long term. And Patterson might be able to come in and end up taking that job in the next 2 seasons, given that he seems to have quite a bit of things going for him outside of a bad pro day, which pushed him down into day 3. So I'm going to stick here. I'm going to take Alec Patterson here in the end of the 3rd round, and hopefully we get ourselves a pretty good pick. And we do. Alec Patterson is a hidden development, which I sort of anticipated considering he had a story and he had really good grades. Usually that means that you can get them later and they're a steal. And I had to go with it. He's got 91 strength, 71 speed, 80 excel. The thing I like most about him is his build. 6'4", 315. This guy can play across the entire line. We drafted him at center, but at 6'4", 315, you're big enough to play guard, and you can get away with playing tackle at that height. Okay, so back here in the end of the 3rd, or sorry, at the end of the 4th, there are slim pickings. One player that I found that is sort of intriguing is Christopher Landry, an outside linebacker. He's considered a run stopper, so he would be an inside linebacker in our system. He is... The thing that stood out is he's top 5 in 40-yard bench press and vertical jump. And he's got some decent skills. He's got B hit power, B awareness, C man coverage. His zone is B to D, but with his man being C, I'm wondering if his zone is going to be pretty close to what his man is, which would put him at close to a C. His pursuit, A to C. His stamina, we don't know much about that, or his injury quite yet, but his play rec is also going to be pretty decent with an A to C rating. Now, is he going to be a guy that starts here? No, probably not, but he could be a pretty decent rotational guy after some work. He's not going to be a freak like Anthony Moore is, but he could give us some type of benefit. So he's one of the guys that I'm considering. One of the other guys that I'm looking at is Leo Boone, who is a corner, man-to-man, 6'3", 192. He is 22 years old, and he is actually pretty darn good in the combine. He's got good speed, good acceleration. His change of direction is not very good, but he does have a top 5 in the 40. He's tied for 2nd in bench press. Vertical jump is pretty good. And his man and zone are actually pretty solid considering how late in the draft this is. He has fallen down a little bit because he's not the best player, but he also could give us kick return ability. Another person I found is Rashad Barr, a running back. I like his build. He's 5'9", 213 pounds, and he is the fastest running back in the class, which is really the only reason I'm considering him, because who doesn't want a game-breaking speed running back? And I don't know, maybe either all these running backs are slow or he's going to have decent speed coming out. So I'm really leaning towards potentially taking him. I don't know a lot about him, but I do know he's got good vision. He should have decent awareness at the very least, decent carrying. And yeah, I mean, just sort of a project. We just got rid of Sean Tucker. Zonovan Knight is probably going to be here for a season or two. Who knows if he stays here long term or not. But to have that guy in the backfield just in case of injury or something like that, and that extra speed, like in this part of the draft, when you're getting down to like pretty much the 5th round, you're looking for guys that are standing out for random reasons, like being the fastest at a position, having a random couple of A's in categories like Alec Patterson did at center. So he's a guy that's really high on my board right now. Kobe Perkins is another corner that stood out to me. He's not as tall. He's 6'1", 181. He's only 21 though, which is nice to see. But he's just not as his speed is not good. It's marginal speed. And I'm not sure if this guy is more built as a safety or if he is actually just a really bad corner in terms of speed and whatnot. But he does have some C's, which I like to see at this stage in the draft. So he's somebody else that stood out to me. So I think with that information, I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draft Rashad Barr, the running back. I mean, it's hard to find a guy that's a combine warrior at this stage in the draft. And with no expectations of starting, if we can just build him up, he's going to have the speed that we can't teach. And who knows, maybe we find something cool. Okay, so he's normal dev, but he's got 94 speed and 93 acceleration. That is cool to see. Change of direction is an 82. Agility 86, but overall, I like the pick. Okay, so somebody took the fullback. I was thinking this would be a decent time to consider taking him in the 6th round, and apparently somebody took him already. Oh well. Now, though, we're taking even more chances, and there is somebody that I found when I was looking around last time. I went down so far into this, like, hole of finding unique players that I think I found somebody by accident, but I think I like him. So this is a guy that I found out of the wide receiver pool. And I know we don't need a receiver, but we just took a running back because he was the fastest. This guy's also the fastest, but look at the rest of his ratings. He's first in 40-yard dash, vertical jump, 3-cone drill, and 20-yard shuttle. He's got elite in almost everything except change of direction and decent. Now, some of his things are very bad. Catching, medium route, catching traffic, injury, not very good at a lot of things. But if I can stash him away on the practice squad or even like 6th, 7th receiver on the team or whatever it is, and build him up, if he is that much of a freak athlete, he might be able to provide, something to us. Maybe it's kick return. His kick return is going to be good. Imagine having a super fast and super agile guy, a kick returner. So I think I'm going to take Nick Smith here. I think that's the play. Yeah, he's an undrafted guy, but we're at the end of the 6th. This is where you take the flyers on people. And look at that. 98 speed, 98 acceleration, 98 agility, and 90 change of direction to go along with 95 jumping. Wow. I mean, he's only 5'9", so I don't think the 95 jumping is really going to do much, but that speed is game breaking. And now it's time for our last pick of the day. And I'm not really sure if there's anybody that really, excites me to take him. I've taken my little project players at halfback and running back. Or at halfback and receiver. I feel like I have to take one every year, which is probably bad, but it's what happens, man. It's what it is. Can't change it. And now for our final pick of the day, who do we want to take a flyer on? As I was looking through, I found a guy named Najee Gant, who he's 23, so it sort of bothers me, but he is a 275, which would fit well at our defensive end position. And he actually has some pretty good pro day ratings as well. 1st in 40-yard dash, 3rd in vertical jump, 4th in 20-yard, 5th in 3-cone, 7th in broad jump. So he is a very solid prospect here. He's got B tackle, injury rating is going to be decent. Power moves are a C, awareness is a C. Need to work on block shedding and finesse moves, but his hit power is also pretty decent. This might not be a bad player to take to end this game or to end this day out, considering we do need extra people at the defensive end position. So I'm going to go ahead and take Najee Gant here, and that'll be the rest of the draft. All right, so not the greatest prospect, normal development, 83 strength, 79 excel, 81 speed, and that is the end. So we definitely did not hit it out of the park in this draft as much as we did last offseason with all of the hidden development players we found. But the one thing we did was get Tyler Chambers, who's a 75 overall. That's what I like to see. Tyler Chambers, 75 overall scrambler, 73 improviser, 72 field general, 71 strong arm. And let's take a look at his ratings here. So, oh wow. So he's got 92 throw power, 88 short, 81 medium, 80 deep. Awareness is a 71. Look at that. He's already 4 awareness ratings better than Trey Lance. 87 throw on the run, 80 throw under pressure, 84 break sack. Let's see what his injury, and 93 injury. So overall, this is a rather good player for us at quarterback. I'm excited about it. And then we came back 2 rounds later and we got Alec Patterson at center, who ends up being a 74 overall. Once again, hidden development. And let's see, he's got 91. So he had 91 strength, 77 run block and pass block finesse, 80 in run block finesse and lead block, 86 impact block. We need to work on his power with pass blocking and run blocking. His injury is a 97. Oh my gosh, that is insane. I didn't know that they could get that high of injury ratings. I mean, obviously I know they can, because they can, you know, they can have 99, but I didn't think that a lot of players would come out of the draft like that. I'm excited. Alec Patterson is definitely the future at the interior of our line. Hell, anywhere he wants to be, he can be the future, honestly. And then it came down to the 3 guys at the end of the draft where I just took some flyers. And Rashad Barr was a 68 overall, so definitely not somebody I should have taken, but it is what it is. 94 speed, 93 excel, 80 ball carrier vision, 80 carrying, so those are decent. Wish his change of direction was a little bit better, but break tackle 76, juke move 78, injury 86. So, I mean, something we can definitely work with. And then here is Nick Smith. This was the super speed demon receiver. And we know he's got 98s in a lot of big categories. His catching is horrid. So is his route running outside of deep route. But he does have good release as well. 76 release. 90 kick return, but his injury is a 79. So, you know, some positives, some negatives here, but we have a 98 speed receiver. I'm cool with it. And then here's Najee Gant, and he was definitely not anything like I anticipated. A 64 overall, 64 power rusher, 62 run stop, and 61 speed rusher. So chances are he probably will not make the team. We'll see what he does in preseason. He has really good injury rating at 95. So there's that. So Mac Bradshaw was a 79 overall. Nathan Solomon was an 83. Now this is the guy I said immediately when I saw this draft or these prospects that he was going to be an absolute beast, and I was right. Hidden development, 91 speed, 92 excel for a guy who's 6'5", 230 pounds. He has 98 spectacular catch coming out, 97 jumping, 93 change of direction. Wow, that is a stud at receiver. Let's just see here. Dom Osgood was pretty good, 77. James Ellsworth, he got that late season surge with a good pro day, but it sort of fooled some people. He's only a 73 overall. Steve Irwin, TJ Grubbs only a 72. Oh, maybe this is more. Okay, no, here we go. Dudley Long a 76. Taj Woodward 76. Nasir Wheatley 74. Oscar Poole 74. We need to find Elliot Roper. Okay, so Roper was a 76. So he was 1 overall better than Tyler Chambers. 96 throw power, but he doesn't even have as good of accuracy in short game. So they're actually really comparable. That throw power, I think, is what's giving him the extra overall. Yeah, I bet you if I brought that throw power down to 91, Chambers is a better overall. I mean, Madden is always over fantasized the throw power with quarterbacks. Quincy McPhee is 73. Carl Horn was a pretty good pick, 75. There was our pick, and now it's time for where was Magana down here? Julian Magana is a 75. He was the same overall, hidden development as well as Tyler Chambers. And here it is. He had 93 throw power, so that good to great was only 2 for throw power. He has very good short and medium accuracy, not so much on the deep side. Awareness, a 74 awareness. Oh my gosh, did we make a mistake, guys? His injury is an 81. So, I mean, that's obviously not a good thing. But wow, I mean, he ended up being a pretty good quarterback. He might not have had to trade it down or trade it up. We could have just stayed put, maybe taken Magana. But we do have the ability of a scrambler now. So I guess we'll take that, and hopefully Chambers proves us right in the long run. And then going into the second round, Devin McGrath was a 79 overall at right tackle. I mean, yeah, his run block or his finesse was not something that was very strong, but I did not think he was going to be that high of an overall in a 78 injury. Oof. A lot of lower tiered injuries. And now I'm just going to go through. I want to try to find. There's Javon Jones. He was a 74 overall. He was hidden dev as well. That was one of the guys that we were looking at, of course. And he ends up, he wasn't the worst with speed in Excel, especially if you consider him a defensive end. Strength is very good at 91. And yeah, I mean, his secondary attributes are all pretty good. And then where is some of the other guys that we were considering? Lamont McIntyre, he was a 77. Carl Robinson, 76. So there were some pretty good corners in this class. Preston Knowles, a 73. Mike Boyd. Or Tevin Cooks. This was one of the safeties that I wanted to check out. And he is... Okay, so 73 overall, hidden development, 86 speed, 92 excel, 89 hit power. Wow, okay, so he is definitely more of a strong safety than he is a free safety. Maybe I'll move him over to strong safety for the Jaguars, so that way he's playing within his game. And then there's Jaden Stanley. He fell down the list. He was a couple overalls less than the other corners. Dylan Strong, Tremaine Green. I'm just looking for guys that I was high on at some point to see if we missed out on a couple of guys, which obviously I know we did already, but here we go in round 3. I mean, none of these guys I probably would have taken. There's Connor Blackburn. That's one of the linebackers, but we didn't really need one after finding out Moore was an X factor. I mean, that sort of just put that to bed. Zach Jordan was a 72, so he wasn't too far off of Patterson. Jaden Gentry, a tight end, that's 74 overall. Zach Bryan, another tight end. Andrew Hayward, a right guard, a 74. Daryl Hitchens. Oh, there was Stephen Douglas. He was a 72. Okay. John Shepard was a 74. I was looking at him and I decided against him in the, well, not that I decided against him, but I didn't want to take him in the second already. And I looked for him in our pick here for Patterson, but he was already gone. But we ended up getting Patterson. So, I mean, it is what it is. Sharif Kershaw, another corner, went right before us. And then right after we picked, there was, I want to see if I missed out on somebody that I should have taken. DeMarcus Moody. I had him on my list. I didn't talk to you guys about him because I thought about it for a split second and then I changed course to Patterson. But he was on my list as a guy to pick up. He was a 6'3" corner. He was 23, which is why I ultimately decided to go against picking him. But dang, 74 overall, 92 speed at that height. That is awesome. That sucks. But hey, that's part of drafting. That's what's part of fun about this is like, you can't get every great player every time, you know, so you have to really do your homework. I want to see who took that fullback. Where was he? It must have been between that pick and this pick, because this is where I started simming a lot. Stephen Cofield. Oh, this was the guy that fell down because of an injury. And he ends up being a 76 overall for the Panthers in the 5th round. Good speed, good play rec, decent zone. He had 74 injury, 72 toughness. So that, I mean, it's not in the 40s, but that is some really low injury. Brian Anderson, that quarterback, the only quarterback that had a story, and he was a 62 overall. What is that? Daquan Clifford, the Texans are just killing it. They get to Marcus Moody, and then they get Daquan Clifford, who's a hidden dev middle linebacker in the 5th round. 74 overall. Wow, that's... Texans are doing some work. Oh my... Dude, you've got to be kidding me. There's the fullback. He was an 80 overall. Darren Andrews. 80 overall. 89 trucking, 89 lead block. That really sucks. Well, the Browns got themselves a heck of a fullback. And I'm just scanning to find any crazy good players that we may have missed out on. I'm not seeing anybody right now. No, it looks like just nothing but 60s there after we made our selection. And honestly, this is probably a good offseason to not be able to do the live stream for, because there wasn't a lot of picks to be done. There wasn't a lot of free agency going on. There wasn't even tough decisions to really be made. This was a pretty simple offseason. The main priority was getting the quarterback, and we get that quarterback with Tyler Chambers at the middle of the 1st round. And that brings us officially to the 2025 season. I just want to take a quick look at the free agents to see if there's any decent free agents that fell into, or rookies that fell into free agency. John Tucker, yeah, look at that. You didn't want to sign with us, and now you're sitting in free agency all by your lonesome. How does that feel? Nobody really standing out here in the receiving department. No. Justin Roach isn't a bad option at left tackle. Normal. If I could find somebody that's like, you know, has a hidden development, I'd definitely sign them right away. But so far, it looks like it's just a lot of undeveloped guys. There's not a lot of quality undrafted free agents. Jeff Kennedy, he's actually better than the guy we drafted. 6'6", 301. Yeah, we'll give him a shot. We'll give him a contract, see what he does in preseason. Marco Walford, middle linebacker. 6'3", 227. Very fast, 88 speed, 87 acceleration. Can't cover to save his life, but he's got good injury ratings. And he is 22. Bring him on for a camp body to see what happens there. Oh, it looks like there's actually a couple of potential rookie corners. Tyrone Edwards is the first one. 5'10", 181. He's 21. Not very fast. Zone coverage is in the garbage. No, not finding anybody there. Najee Flowers. See what he's got. 6'3", 207. He's got good hit power. 84 hit power. 70 zone. Needs to work on his tackling, his play recognition, but see, a lot of these guys have really low injuries. I don't know if that is by design or if Madden just like threw the pooch when it came to properly rating and putting whatever they do in this randomizer that they make for, you know, these auto-generated players. But we'll go ahead and we'll give them a roster spot for now. Never hurt to have a few extra people for preseason. Can't forget kickers and punters. Oh, hey, look at that. There's actually a good punter. Christian Garner, second-year guy. He's 23. What is our punters overall? I'll just sign him. Worst case scenario, I cut him. All right, so that is going to pretty much wrap things up. We went ahead, got everything done in the offseason, signed a few of the key free agents, and honestly, like I mentioned, this probably wasn't a great offseason to do for a live stream anyway, given the fact that there just really wasn't a lot going on. Wasn't that action-packed, wasn't that exciting. hopefully next offseason maybe is a little bit more exciting. See what, how some of these contracts, some of these guys we traded for and signed contracts going to be coming up here soon. So it should get a little bit more interesting. And yeah, so as for this video, that is all I have for you guys. Once again, keep an eye out for that new scouting list that I'll be putting out. Well, after we get done with preseason, I'll have the new scouting list ready for you guys to look at, and hopefully you guys are enjoying that. And let me know down below what you thought of the offseason, what you think of the moves that we made. Did we make a bad decision going up for Tyler Chambers? Should we have stayed put with Magana? I don't know, guys. It's going to be fun to try and find that out. But thank you so much for watching. Before you head out, hit that like button, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that bell notification so you know when these videos go live. And I will see you guys next time.